We are talking a happier subject, truffles.
Yes.
Lee, truffles. Can you tell people what truffles are?
Truffles are a mushroom. The difference between a mushroom and a truffle is truffles are underground, whereas a mushroom is grown above ground. Ours are all from Italy, European truffles. So I'm with Urbani Truffles. And we basically bring them in. They come in from Italy to New York, and then they're sent here.
People that compare them to mushrooms, though, I think that's kind of a misnomer. I think you can hate mushrooms and love truffles, or vice versa.
Oh, they're
completely different species. I mean, they're all within the they're all fungus.
Correct.
But they're very, very different. I mean, seriously, if you don't like mushrooms, don't think you don't want to try truffles. And the beautiful thing about truffles is, I mean, this entire room smells of truffles right now. They are the most, probably the most aromatic food that, off the top of my head, that I can think of.
Especially white, which you see here. Whites are the most aromatic, the most flavorful, the best you want to try. If you want to experiment with truffles, try with white.
The most expensive also.
Of course.
And only in season a few months of the year.
Of not even a few, a little October, a little bit of November.
You can usually get them in restaurants from, say, October through New Year's Eve. They tend to save some until New Year's.
Yeah, we save them, but the quantity decreases throughout.
Scott, do we have a question?
Maya wants to know, can you grow truffles? Oh, are they in the wild or are they in farms?
They are very wild, especially white. White is the wildest. It is something that's completely Mother Nature. The blacks can be somewhat, I mean, commercially cultivated. They take about 7 years to grow, to get the soil right, the atmosphere right. Everything has to be exactly there. You have to have the right trees, the right sunlight, the right amount of water, the right minerals. The blacks can be grown in certain regions. However, whites are very wild.
And I mean, even where they try to cultivate them, I mean, this has been centuries people have attempted that.
Oh, yes.
I'd actually read a story, I have no idea if you could shed any light on whether it's true, that, and I didn't send you this as one of my questions, so I apologize. I had read a story that actually prior to World War II, they were actually had come up with a way sort of to cultivate even the whites, but then the war broke out and the secret was lost in the war. Do you know, have you heard that story?
No, I haven't. I mean, I know everyone tries to cultivate everything. Of course, whites, they are the most expensive, so why wouldn't you, want to try to grow that product? But no one has been successful. I mean, I think Australia is the probably #1 region trying to cultivate it, but it's not something that I think is going to happen near the same as a European truffle.
Now, the best truffles come from Italy.
Of course.
In the region around Alba, correct?
Yes, white.
White truffles. And actually, let's go through the types of truffles. We've got white truffles, black truffles, summer truffles. How many types of truffles are there out there?
In the U.S., we generally only speak about white, black winter, black summer, and burgundy. In Italy, there's hundreds because there are a lot of different types of truffles. It's just we don't really bring them into the U.S. because they're not as popular. But we have the white right now. The black winter will come, later in late November, early December, and then we'll go into summer and then burgundy.
Okay. How do they rank in price? I mean, because price, I mean, it's a matter of taste, what you like, obviously. I don't want to say what's the best, but we can say what's the most expensive. So how do they rank that way?
They rank as far as, quality, taste, aroma. The least is going to be the summer. So those are the most affordable. They're more of a natural taste. They're more of, in my opinion, they kind of taste like an almond. They bring more of the earthy flavor. Then you go into burgundies, which are known to be in between a summer and a black winter. I personally, I still think the burgundies are not as flavorful, but then you go into the extreme of white, and they're very flavorful, very large aroma, just the best. And then we're going to go into black winter, which are, in my opinion, equally as nice. Price is a little bit less, so that's always good for people. But I love black winter and white.
Okay.
So.
Now, we're talking about price, and a lot of people out there have never tried a truffle and are going to be a little shocked. I mean, Scott, cut to that picture of what we have on the table. We have about 2 pounds of truffles here?
Probably a little less, yeah, around 2.
Around 2 pounds. Your wholesale price for these truffles that are sitting right in front of me, I mean, this, to give it a comparison, there's my hand next to it, okay? It's not a massive pile of truffles. You sell these for what, about $5,000 to a restaurant?
Yeah, a pound is around, depending on size, it ranges anywhere from $2,000 to $2,700. So that on the table is probably around $5,000.
Right. That's pretty amazing.
Yes.
Again, we'll put the salt shaker next to it. I mean, this is what we're talking about. $5,000 worth of truffles right here. So it's just astounding to certain people. You only need a little bit, though. A little bit goes a long way.
Yeah, and every restaurant uses different proportions. They range anywhere from 1 ounce to 8 ounces on a dish. So just depending on what you like. White is obviously everyone's preference, I believe. So,
for the most part, especially with whites, it doesn't seem that the chefs necessarily cook with them. Most of what happens when I go to a white truffle tasting, with a few exceptions, notably I think there's a white truffle lasagna at Fiamma that they do, but I mean, most of the time they come out with their best dish that they love the most, whether it be a risotto or a chicken or whatever, and then they take this cool little thing that you've got here, this little truffle shaver, and I would do it, but I don't want to give you $500, and then you just kind of shave off just some shavings of truffles, and they sit on top of the dish, right? I mean, that's primarily how it's served.
The best way, I haven't heard of anyone cooking whites, is raw. You just shave them on top, you eat them on the dish, and that's the best way.
And that may be what they do at Fiamma. I actually haven't tried that dish yet, so I'm not sure. I'm going in for it soon, though, very soon. We've got a question, Scott.
You started to answer it. Bill asked, how are they served? And how much should I expect to pay at a restaurant?
They are generally served. A lot of the restaurants here serve them tableside, so you will actually see the server come to your table with the shaver and shave them right in front of you, so you know they're raw, they're not cooked, and you eat them as is on your dish. Some of the restaurants will do it. They'll shave them in the back of the house in the kitchen. And it's generally the same. Like I said, I've never heard of anyone cooking them.
Is it an appetizer or a main course, or at what point do you have these?
On anything. I mean,
yeah.
At Guy Savoy, not to bring up Guy Savoy again, but I mean, you go for a white truffle tasting dinner, and they shave them on your appetizer, and they shave them on your second course, and they shave them on your fish course, and they shave them on your beef course, and I mean, all the way through, you get truffles.
It's really an item that you can eat on a lot of different things. Of course, eggs, pasta, anywhere like that is the best, but you can really eat them on anything.
Wonderful on risotto.
Yeah, risottos, yes.
Just absolutely fantastic. Super rich. They're very earthy, so they go well with anything that has a very earthy feel to it, really.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't want it on a citrus dish or something like that,
No.
But
how about cost?
Cost per, it's gonna depend on how much the chef puts on your dish. Like I said, it generally goes anywhere from 1 ounce to 8 ounces, and with every ounce is more. So I know, if you're gonna get around 6.5 ounces, you're probably gonna pay about $150 to $200 per dish.
So $150 to $200 additional for having the truffles on it. And if you do a white truffle tasting menu somewhere, I mean, you can be spending $400 or $500 a person, probably.
Yeah, I know a restaurant. I mean, there's a couple of restaurants that are doing it around $300, which is a really good. If you're getting white truffles and you're getting a few courses, that's really good.
Yeah, but definitely not when you're on bargain shopping. This is not a bargain dish. There's so much about how they're caught. Or how they're caught, excuse me, how they're harvested, how they're found. Because for years, it was pigs that did it, right? Could you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, nowadays we don't really use pigs. As you can imagine, a pig is going to be difficult to bring in and about traveling with you bring them to the fields in the truck, so you have to lift them. It's just the logistics of having pigs hunt the truffles is not convenient.
But pigs naturally love the smell of truffles, right?
Pigs are the best, and they naturally just go. right to the truffle, but they go so fast they eat them before the truffle hunter can actually grab it. So that's another one of the problems, is they eat them.
They just act like pigs.
Yeah, of course. So we have all of our truffles are found with dogs now. They're a little easier to get in and out of the trucks. They the only problem with dogs is they get distracted. So
Like a squirrel is more interesting to them than a truffle?
yeah, they can be distracted by a lot of different things. So that's why our truffle hunting happens between midnight and 4 a.m. It's a little more peaceful, so the dogs do not get distracted.
Now, if these are in the wild, it must be very secretive. I mean, I've heard stories that if a journalist like myself were to go out and try to check out how these are done, like I've heard about people being blindfolded when they're taken to the field. I mean, any truth to this, or are these old journalist tales?
You know, if I was a truffle hunter, I would protect my fields, but I'm sure, yeah, it's our company, we actually have the fields, so we have about 8,000 hunters, and we pretty much take ownerships in those fields. So if it's a smaller company who, because we buy the truffles from the hunters.
Right.
So, I would say it's very secretive to them. They're not letting a lot of people know where they're getting them. And I'm sure that still exists.
Right.
Of course, with the cost of them, they would have to.
Yeah, well, absolutely amazing. These things smell delicious. If you don't have a guard pig or a guard dog out there, I'm going to be sneaking one into my pocket, I think. Yo, I got truffles. We're selling them on the street like crack, man. More expensive than crack. That should be the new motto for truffles.
Really?
But thank you so much for coming. It's
No,
great to
thank
see
you.
We will be back. We'll be talking lobsters. In the meantime, where can people get your luscious truffles? Any restaurants that we should recommend?
Geese Savoie.
Geese Savoie, of course. I was thinking that, but I didn't want to be thrown it that way. I didn't know if you're married now. You might not be getting along. I'm not sure.
It'll be different next week. Go to Robichon next week.
But all the great restaurants in town. Seriously, people, it is white truffle season finally. This is the most wonderful time of the year for foodies, and really get them now. This is the very early part of the season. What you get through now in November will taste a little different throughout that. And then what you really get through December, and if you're able to get them in early January, will be stuff that's left over. So now is the time to go check it out. I highly recommend it. Thank you so much for coming down today.
Thank you very much.
And we will be back talking lobsters right after this.